All right, so before I turn it over to our two fellow presenters, I do want to give a little bit of background for those who may not know the overall mission and kind of program elements about the Schweitzer Fellowship. As you see listed here, our mission is really about equipping students both with skills, but also a commitment to work with underserved populations, not only during your year of service as a Schweitzer Fellow, but especially after you graduate. And so we're really trying to develop future leaders in health and human services who can create positive change in the community. And we feel like the one-year fellowship is just the introductory year process. So by the end of tonight, hopefully you will know where to go to get more information, because I imagine more questions will come to mind after you watch this. And so I do want to point out a few resources that you can reference as we go along, and then again at the end. So I'm going to share this slide again later. Right now you are seeing 3 QR codes with some of those resources. Step 1 is going to take you to a place on our website called like Becoming a Fellow. We are still updating that and hope to have by October 1 our new application, and it's going to be very similar, but the final version of the application as well as any other updated details. So I encourage you to bookmark that so you can go back and check it in the coming months to get all the information you may need. And then chances are I have already connected with those on today's meeting, but if not, I want to make sure that you do step 2 before you leave tonight. And that's just to give us your name and email address so that we can stay in touch. So these are the questions that people typically come with. So we want to make sure we answer at least these, but again, we'll have time for Q&A at the end as well. But some of the things that I heard you saying was, you wanted to learn about how do people connect with their community sites and how do they identify who would be good mentors for their projects. So those are great questions. Usually people also want to know, like, what's the time commitment? Is this realistic for me to add on to my already busy schedule? And then we'll just give you some other kind of general details about not only the project process, but also some of what we try to learn together. So in terms of what we do in ASF, I like to think that there are 3 main components. The service project is, of course, I would say, the gold star of what fellows are doing. So you identify a project in collaboration with a community site partner. You're identifying an unmet need, and you're trying to determine who's most affected by that need, so that you can then research strategies that could be effective in delivering a new service or providing something more effectively than it's been done in the past. So you're essentially piloting your own version of a solution and then doing quality improvement to continually make it better. 2 criteria that all Schweitzer Fellowship programs around the country follow is that these projects must be comprised of at least 200 hours, and we really emphasize direct service. So I know a lot of times when people hear the term fellowship, they're thinking about research fellowships. And while we do want students to have sort of a thoughtful way of reviewing literature and knowing the data associated with their topic, we are much more focused on a bulk of the time you spend on your project being delivery of, and addressing the need, not just thinking about it. So of those 200 hours, at least 100 needs to be in direct service. And then we also provide trainings in a way for you to reflect on what you're learning and doing in order to improve upon the project. And also think about how you're going to integrate this into your future careers. So our trainings, and that's the second item that you see on your screen, those educational workshops, they're going to take place monthly, either through an in-person retreat on a weekend or through a virtual workshop. So it's just a good time to learn together, to gather and hear what's happening with other people's projects, and also to learn from community leaders. So we tend to emphasize perspectives of people who are on the ground doing this kind of work. So hopefully it's a little bit different than what you're getting in your classes as well. So right now our fellows are coming from about 9 different schools around the state, and they represent a wide range of health and human service fields. So the other thing I think that's unique is just this time for problem solving and collaboration with people in these different, interdisciplinary, I guess, fields. So in terms of what fellows do, my guess is that you have all heard of at least one or two examples and have some idea. But just to give you kind of a grander vision of the scope of the fellowship projects and what it can look like to do a project over 200 hours, I would say that oftentimes our projects fall into 4 common domains. So I'm going to point out one example of each of these, but I also want to emphasize that you do not have to do a project within one of these domains. These are just kind of common. So they're often doing projects related to supporting mental well-being. So in the top left of the screen, you see Katie Cassidy. She was, oh goodness, probably a 2017 to 2018 fellow. She had worked with children with disabilities and had seen that parents really didn't get the support that they always needed. And so she created an online support group. This was before online stuff was really happening. So Katie's project was very unique and interesting. Projects oftentimes are providing access to care. And so Josh Bruce and Allison Footman that you see there in the top right, they worked with a mobile testing unit to provide HIV and STI testing in unreached areas of Jefferson County. Projects sometimes encourage the development of youth, and this has looked different depending on kind of whether students were situated in a school or an after-school setting, but David Osula is the one in the bottom right picture there. He was teaching anatomy to students who are interested in healthcare careers. And then we have a lot of students who are recognizing that nutrition and physical well-being is a core component of overall health. And so they, the two that you see listed there, Jasmine Grayson and Micah Thomas, they worked on a community garden involving the youth so that the youth were more familiar with foods that maybe they hadn't oftentimes eaten at home, and they were able to also distribute that fresh produce through the garden. So again, projects don't have to be in those 4 areas. You may know a need in a different domain and you are welcome to apply with that topic, but those are just something that we see frequently. Now, to get a full breadth of what our 84 alum and our 20 current fellows are doing, I'm going to point you back to this slide again and say, go to step 3. If you're on our website, there is a header that says fellows, and from there you can read little profiles about basically every group of fellow. The current fellows will have a description of what they're working on, and then the past fellows, or what we call fellows for life, they're going to give you a description of what they actually accomplished by the end of the year. So I think that'll give you a sense both of the variety that you can, work towards, but also kind of the depth, like how ambitious can you think about being? 200 hours sounds like a lot of time, and it is a lot of time, and yet it's still going to go by in a flash. And so what can you really do to be effective? I think you'll get to be really excited, and chances are something on one of those examples is going to kind of catch your attention. So if you don't have your phone with you and the QR code thing is not working for you, I just listed here the web address for that last thing in particular. Okay, I am going to say one last thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea and Mack. So oftentimes students don't come in thinking about the benefits, but we do want to point out that there are a few benefits we're hoping that you receive out of this fellowship as well. Obviously, we want you to find this to be a stimulating learning opportunity, to be able to be in the presence of mentors that you can not only get to know and learn from this year, but who can continue to advise you in personal and professional matters moving forward. But then we do want to compensate you some for your time. So over the course of the year, fellows receive kind of an incremental amount towards this overall stipend of $2,500. And then we have about 4,000 alumni nationally in our network, and are looking to grow sort of how those alumni are able to engage with each other. So that is a little bit of kind of a stay tuned, but just know that You would be one of about 250 fellows nationally who would be a part of the 2023 class. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to two of our current fellows, Mack Bozman and Chelsea Gayre. They're going to tell you more about their current projects, how they settled on their topics, who they're serving with, and then answer some other kind of frequently asked questions as well. So let me stop sharing. Let's see. Chelsea, would you like to share first?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. So like Kristen said, my name's Chelsea Gayre, and I'm a 22 fellow. I'm currently a family nurse practitioner student at Auburn University. I learned about the fellowship through our program and one of our kind of academic mentors, and reached out to her, who directed me back to Kristen. Kristen and I spent a good bit of time on Zoom one day, just talking about all this kind of stuff. So you guys have a unique opportunity to learn about it way before I did. I kind of came in like 20 days before the application was due. But it's really good to get to know about our projects, what we're doing, just to see if it's anything that interests you and if you can start working on thought process of a project. But my current project, I am working on specialty services, trying to reach rural communities to increase services available to them. So I'm working on a telehealth project for cardiology care. And you'll find a lot of the people that you'll meet along the way are going to suggest projects or people that they know, and they can kind of help you create a project. You're not out there by yourself. I had a thought and it's grown exponentially from where I started. I'm now working with the Department of Public Health, and they're incorporated to do part of the teaching. So it seems overwhelming, like you have these 200 hours to do everything, but the more that you talk to people, you find resources. Kristen's wonderful about connecting you with people. You will have a project that comes together. It's very interesting. So that's where I'm at and what I'm working on this.
All right. So I'm Mack Bozman. I'm also in the ASF program here. I started this year as well. I'm a fourth year medical student. So it's good to see a lot of medical students out there at UAB. My interest is psychiatry. I'm a fourth year, like I said, and I'm applying pretty soon now for ERAS. And I also joined kind of late, like Chelsea. If you're at UAB, you're going to get a million emails from Kristen, which is great. Like subconsciously, it was always there, the ASF thing, all these years. And I came about actually doing it. I'm in a partner project with another medical student, and we just got to talking about kind of our lives and what mentorship is meant for us, and how we kind of wanted to give that back. And I think one of the emails blasted like right at that moment. Him and I were talking. We were like, we should go for this. We should do this, and we did. And like Chelsea was saying, it starts off as a small idea and just grows into this huge, mess of how are you going to figure this out? What are you going to do? But the people, Kristen and ASF, they're so good at helping you navigate that situation. And working you through it, and you kind of figure out what to do as you go. Just super supportive group. So yeah, our program, we're creating a mentorship program for fatherless youths in Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville's my branch campus from UAB. And we're in there now. We're starting to meet the students, and it's going well. So it's going to be a year-long project with that, and we'll hopefully, make some good progress.
So Mack, say a little bit more about when you say mentorship of youth. What are y'all looking to do?
Sure. So we're going to have sessions every month. We're going to have a session that we meet the students, just Anthony and I, to kind of talk to them, see how they're doing, get to know them. And then we're going to have an expert session, some of which will be led by other fellows here. Our first session is going to be nutrition, diet, exercise, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of like 1,000-meter view of it all, just so they can kind of understand the basics. But they're going to help with things like, we're going to help with things like the FAFSA, with college applications, batching with a mentor that's interested in their field of interest. So whether it be hopefully medicine, which would be nice, but whatever it is, we have engineers, people of every background. Hopefully we're going to match the students with somebody who does that job so they can help them get into that field, and just have somebody to talk to, an adult in that area, to just kind of like make them feel like it's attainable, to meet them and talk to them, make it feel like it's not a fairy tale to go that distance and be there. And we'll do that through the year. And we're also going to have a research, an IRB made for this. Hopefully we'll try to publish some data, kind of get something out there. That's kind of in the works right now too. So there's a lot you can do, research and, direct impact in the community wherever you serve. And it's really just, it's been great so far.
So Chelsea, I'm sure people are going to have follow-up questions for both of y'all, but why don't we dive into a couple of the FAQs, and then we can come back and see questions people have at all. So, correct screen. Do you see, do I qualify?
Yeah, I can see it here.
Okay, perfect. I'll turn it over to you then.
Okay, so a little bit about like what Kristen and I met early on was just, do I even qualify? Should I do it now? And do I have enough time? So you have to be a graduate student, which obviously if you're all med students, you all definitely qualify. If you're enrolled part-time or full-time, you just have to be enrolled through April 23. Is that correct, Kristen? It doesn't matter whether you're part-time or full-time. Yeah. Your project does have to occur within the state of Alabama. Like I currently live in Georgia. However, my project is situated in Bullitt County in Alabama. So it's really not that far for me, but I made my project telemedicine. So even if it's not the closest for you, you may even be able to find ways to make it work for you. And the overnight orientation, is very fun. I was super surprised. Everybody, I'm a little introverted, but once you got there, you will find that ASF is the most welcoming group of people. You walk in, and I didn't even know Mack. We sat down, had lunch, and talked like we'd known forever. So it was very nice. We went to it was actually a 4-H camp, but did activities. And like I said, everything was just very warm, inviting. They will give you tons of education. I can't say enough good things. You will leave there feeling like what you are doing is very empowering, and you'll be motivated. You find a project that you're passionate about, and they'll give you that empowerment.
All right. So this question is there someone I should talk to about project ideas? How should I narrow down my ideas for possible projects? So first of all, ask whether it's an identified need. For us, we started very broadly, my partner and I, and then we ended up, kind of narrowing it down. And the best way for us to do that was by looking up the research, involved with it. And we had this big idea about fatherlessness and just like, how can we change every aspect of these kids' lives? But that was way too broad and it wasn't possible. And then we narrowed it down. But when you look at the data, for our case, fatherlessness, I mean, the consequences, they're very bad. They're very poor outcomes when that happens. And so it was an identified need. Evaluate your own interests. Anthony and I both had personal interest in this. My father committed suicide when I was young, and so I experienced this fatherlessness, and so it meant a lot to me to try to do something to help other people in that situation. And both my partner Anthony and I had wonderful mentors in our life that really kind of took us out of our shells and really, gave us the courage to keep going and pressing forward when everything was new. Him and I were both also first generation college students, so everything was new. Everything was intimidating and scary. But we had great mentors, so that was, our thing that we felt we could really grow with. thinking about your skills. How can you help create something new or expand on an idea that exists? This was really good, working with, and you can come to ASF like with a general idea, and they'll really help you mold that into something good. And so when we first came with our idea, we thought we had everything squared away. And then we found there's so many things to either narrow or broaden. And working with past fellows, they showed us how they did similar projects in Birmingham, and it really helped us like focus what we were doing. Really helpful. And there's so many people in this network, and they're very, very helpful. So build capacity for an organization and serve clients directly. Also part of it, we're working directly with these students at Grissom High School. Finding your target area is kind of difficult too, but you'll absolutely get there, and they can help you so much with this. And tip sheets, so that'll be coming later. But like I said, it's just really phenomenal, and you just come here with a desire and a willingness to put those hours in, and they will definitely help you like find the niche that you want to fill.
Yeah, this is, I think, one of the hardest questions to answer just because it's so individualized, but I love your example, Mac, just because I do think it's sort of showing that meeting point where hopefully every applicant can find, which is like, where do my interest and some kind of community need intersect? So if you can find that Venn diagram and that little part in the middle, we found that that's what makes people passionate to kind of keep going when the projects get tough, because you'll hit hurdles at some point. And so you sort of need to be, I think, connected in a personal way to whatever you're doing. In terms of that tip sheet, we're trying to organize and be able to point people towards community partners that maybe we've worked with in the past. So one of the things that I'll send you, it may not be tomorrow exactly, but anyone who attends one of these sessions, I'm going to send out a list that we've tried to sort by these topic areas, so that if you're just really broad right now and you're like, well, I know I'm interested in something with youth, then you can at least start to maybe narrow it down. It's not a restricted list. I mean, you can certainly find a partner that's not on there, but it'll just kind of kickstart some of those initial conversations. All right, now I'm going to turn it back over to y'all. Talk about time. How do you do this? How do you manage?
You want to go first, Mac? You want me to go first?
You can go first, Chelsea.
Calendars, a whole lot of calendars. No, I think if you're thinking about a fellowship, you're obviously an overachiever anyways. So you're gonna want to make it work. This is my fun time. I enjoy my project. It's a piece of my drive, what I want to do, right? Like, I have a healthcare background. I've been a nurse for over 10 years. I've worked with these populations. I'm very passionate about it. But it's really nice to get involved in a project that I know is going to make a difference. I would love to hand it over to somebody. The hospital I'm working with now, they want to expand this and make it huge. So I would love to be able to do that for you guys. But the 200 hours, really, if you plan ahead and you break it down month by month, you know what you have to do. You set goals, and you just drive away at it. Kristen is great about, they will send you out monthly, what is your monthly goal? How can I help you achieve that? And then you're going to send that to your mentors, and they're going to help you. I had a hurdle last month. I needed some contacts for some nutrition counseling with my patients. Within the end of the week, I had the contacts, it was set up, and that piece of my project was solved. So you're not alone. There's people who are going to help you with how you're going to meet those goals, and they're going to give you an extra push when you need it. But I think you'll find that if you choose to do this, that it's not a hard 200 hours. They're very fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. The 200 hours seems imposing at first, but it really just melts away when you get grinding, especially if you like the project that you're doing. It really just, it's fun to do. And I'll say that the partner project aspect is huge. It's been so nice to do this with my partner, and it's just really nice to have somebody there to bounce, ideas off of, and to pick up slack if you have to, focus on a certain exam. And I can't speak for any of the other schools, but I know for med school, it gets pretty busy. There's certain times when you feel like you have a little bit of time, and there's certain times when you feel like you don't have any time at all. And having a partner really helps to split that up and kind of break it up. And I think that, if I recall, but a lot of y'all are first year medical students. I think into your first year and your second year is a great time to do it. I think third year is pretty tough, and fourth year is doable, but first and second year would be a good time. And I think that you definitely have enough time, and I think that a partner would really help you to do it.
So I'll just chime in and say the School of Medicine does not allow students to do it in third year. So your best times are either second or fourth. But yes, Mack is a good example, both of, maybe some of the advantages of partner projects. So we are trying to highlight that option more this year moving forward. And I'll just say that your partner does not have to be within your same discipline. So we do have partner projects this year and in the past where maybe a student from nursing and public health got together, or sometimes those have even been across schools. So if you have a friend who's in one of our partner consortium schools, reach out to them, let them know this is an opportunity for them as well, and to consider applying together. So the last thing I will say about the time commitment is if you break it down over the 13 months that you would be in ASF, it works out to about 4 to 5 hours a week. And we don't require you to evenly spread out your hours. So some projects might need to be intensive in one part of the year or another. So some might have, we've had some projects, for instance, do like summer feeding programs where kids who would qualify for free and reduced price lunches might be able to go to a community center to continue to receive, meals. So that's obviously going to be something where your hours in the summer are going to be much higher, but then that allows you to taper off and have, a reduced workload in the fall and spring. So just consider sort of how your academic coursework is going to be structured, what other commitments you're going to have, and kind of plan accordingly. People also need to plan around life events. If you're getting married or if you have a big family trip or something that you're taking, it does not exclude you from participating in ASF. We just want to be thoughtful to plan around that. But yes, definitely want to encourage the partner projects. What's up next? Okay, I think I just wanted to share a few things about what would be different in 2023. This was a slide that used to be very COVID centric in the past year or two when we were having to think about what could and couldn't be done because of COVID. Well, one of the outcomes of that is that we really had to lean into virtual meetings, but that's allowed us to grow geographically and have people like Chelsea be a part of our fellowship who in the past would have either had to drive to Birmingham for meetings or not at all. So we're really excited to kind of have this blended learning. I mentioned before, we'll do in-person retreats quarterly and then virtual workshops in between months. What we do, if you're like, well, how do I know if that works for me? As soon as people apply, we try to share the calendar, and that way we can get feedback from you and you can tell us like these dates don't work, and we try to make adjustments based around what our fellows say. So if we see there's a month where a lot of people are going to have a conflict, we'll change that. The exception is orientation. So the April 15th through 16th is a firm date. And so we just keep saying that so that everyone can be aware and only apply if you can attend. The other new thing, though, is that we do want to split orientation into 2 parts. So we realized with Mack and Chelsea's group this year that we were asking them to kind of interact in this virtual environment and they didn't know each other. So we really just want to have some like just getting to know you kind of time in March, right when things are kicking off. And so we'll do that virtually on March the 5th. And then, we're looking for ways to interact more with other chapters. Again, this is something that's kind of come out because of virtual, but this cohort, we're going to go down to Mobile and spend time with our New Orleans chapter. So whether virtual or whether just based on our kind of expanding geography, we're looking for ways where you can really interact and get to know people from other Schweitzer programs, which I think is fun. So I don't want to read this to you. You can see the dates, but basically the selection process extends over the month of February. We'll make interview offers and then you can select a day and time for your interview. we're bumping it up a little bit earlier this year so that we can notify you earlier. So you'll find out about a week prior than when mostly fellows find out. Chelsea and Mack, do y'all mind chiming in here and sharing anything though about kind of the application itself or the interview process, what that was like for you?
I thought it was reasonable. It was a lot easier as all this is having a partner, you know, to deal with all this stuff, but it was not really super high stress talking with you all. It was, you know, it felt nice. The process felt fluid. It didn't seem too bad.
Yeah, I feel like it was forever ago, but it was easy. I do remember that it was online. You click the link, you download the forms, you just type in basically what's your interest? Do you have time to do it? It's all the questions we went through tonight. And then the interview was really fun. We got to interview with other fellows. It was kind of a casual conversation. It wasn't anything difficult.
Yeah, I think that's a great takeaway. Don't be intimidated. This is going to be much more of a nurturing environment than a lot of things y'all have been through with job interviews and professional interviews. So once you do interview, if you're accepted, again, we'll have the virtual orientation, and then we'll do some things online to keep everyone sort of moving forward at their own self-pace, depending on how solid of an idea or how fluid of an idea you come in with. We want to encourage you to get to know your site partners, and whether that's through volunteering or shadowing. And this is another great way to go ahead and kind of kickstart some of that direct service time. And then we'll work with you to draft your goals for the project, like what success is going to look like before you come to orientation. So I guess the takeaway of all this is that you do a lot of work, you know, kind of on the front end, so that by June or July, you're ready to get started with your project. And then we have a big celebration at the end of the year. All right, so now that we've all talked a lot, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just open the floor and see what questions people have for us.
So I have one question about, so for the application, is part of the application actually making the proposal for our idea?
Yeah, so you need to have an idea of what you want to do. It doesn't have to be very concrete at all. They just kind of ask, you know, what your interests are, what kind of field you want to be working with, what type of, you know, project you want to be doing. And it's good to have an idea, but it can be pretty vague. It doesn't have to be very concrete, and the staff will work with you to kind of mold it into something that's pretty, you know, concrete.
So wouldn't oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. What?
Oh, you go ahead. I was gonna ask a follow-up question.
I was just gonna say I would piggy off what Mac said. It seemed kind of intimidating, like I had to have everything together. I had to have this complete project, but that's not the case. It was really just more of a judge of your motivation. Do you have an idea, a passion that you are willing to carry out in a project?
Okay, that makes sense. You kind of answered my second question, so yeah.
So we actually adjusted our application a couple of years ago because we found that a lot of times fellows came in with an idea and they put so much effort into this, and then it just inevitably was not necessarily in line with what the community partner or what data sort of suggested was the need. And so we said, you know, we don't want you to invest all that effort and then have to redo it. And so we just would rather meet you where you are with your interest when you come in, and then really try to mentor you through that process of narrowing down, like Mac said, or making sure that it's sort of grounded in data that exhibits what the needs are. We also want to kind of help you find some kind of evidence-informed strategies for addressing it. So a lot of times I think people come in like, here's what I want to do, and they start with a strategy. But what we're encouraging people to step back and say, what's the need? Like, what is the outcome that you want to seek? And then we'll figure out how to get to that outcome. So the application will allow you to propose two, they could be totally different projects or they could be similar. But yes, I think what Chelsea said, motivation is kind of a critical thing that we're looking for.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'll also say that this project, it's wonderful to be able to do this, to meet people, to help them find the need in the community, but also just as a young professional and as a med student or whatever graduate program you're in, it's really valuable to do this work, to start from scratch, create a project, be forced to network, reach, go out of your shell, meet people, address the need. I mean, these things are invaluable hard and soft skills that you develop in doing this project that will definitely help you not only in your career now and also with applications to residency, but in your whole life. And it's very valuable and it's also very fulfilling. So it's a good project.
And like Kristen said, you can go on and look up and see what other fellows are doing. And I really had no idea what the outreach of ASF was until I got into it. And now that I realize people in their careers, who they are, and that they were a previous fellow and they're now a fellow for life, I think you'll be very surprised. I even had a good friend who he immigrated from overseas, was at Harvard in Boston, and he's been graduated for years, and he said, "Oh, you're doing ASF. Oh, I know exactly what that is." You'll just find random people that they recognize that. It looks fantastic on an application. As a professional, people will notice that.
So I'm so glad that Chelsea and Mack were here to share their opinions. If you are looking for more opinions, I just want to say we are just now really kicking off recruitment season. And so there's going to be several more virtual as well as in-person opportunities. So I've added many of them to our website today. You can take a look under the events portion of our website, or you can go back and look on our YouTube channel. There's recordings from prior years. So even if you just scroll through all the kind of boring introductory stuff, just get to where the fellows are speaking and hear their stories, hear what they were doing. I think it's great to hear from their words. But anything else we can do before we leave tonight?
Hi. So I had a quick question, please. Are international students eligible for this?
Yes, so there's no restriction from ASF for doing it. We've had several international students in the past and even currently. What I usually encourage people to do is to talk to the International Student Service Office just to make sure. Sometimes, as I've heard it, there can be some restrictions on whether or not you can receive funding. And so the stipend, you just want to make sure that it's okay for you to accept the stipend funds and that won't impact your visa status or anything like that. And then for those who maybe don't have a social security number, we learned this year we had to kind of work through how to get that just for payment purposes and such. But yes, we welcome you to apply.
Okay, thank you. I joined late, so I might have missed this, but wanted to know that if I have an idea, but I don't have a mentor, so would ASF help me find a mentor as well?
Absolutely. I'd encourage you to talk with us one-on-one, maybe before applying this year. We are going to encourage people to maybe identify at least just their faculty mentor. So in the end, you'll end up with 3 mentors. You'll have someone from ASF, you'll have a faculty member from your school, and then you'll have a mentor from your community partner organization. Since you don't necessarily know your organization when you apply, we don't expect you to have your site mentor determined, but we would like for everyone to maybe have that faculty contact. That person is going to be able to help you during the application, and they'll also be able to help you and just give some advice about like the best time to do this in your academic kind of process. We recognize that a lot of times you don't know what's coming around the bend. You don't know what classes are the hardest. You don't know, how much time your practicums are going to take or whatnot. So I'm happy to help you find a potential faculty mentor before February 1. And then once you get into ASF, we will certainly help you find that site mentor via finding a community site partner.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. I know we said we would wrap up at 6:15. I think we're just a minute past. So thanks again for being here. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I will put my email address in the chat so you can see it there. Let's see, director. And then we have a new action learning coach coming on board. So that person will also be a great resource to you in the coming months. So stay tuned. I'll be introducing him to all of our applicants as he gets on board. So thank you all.
Thank
Have a good night.
Thank you.